I'm going to walk and talk. The whole point of this escapade really is raise awareness, be open, be honest, and sometimes look like a bit of a weirdo walking in the street talking to yourself, but that's okay. People on the other side of the road are suddenly self-conscious. But I'm out here and I'm doing it still, so that's good. That's a good thing. But yeah, in the very, very first 2 weeks of medication, that's what I'm going to kind of, today's topic, if you like, that's what it's going to be about. I'm going to kind of take you through my experience. I'm going right back to the start. And back at the start, well, going right back, I suppose, we could go back probably a year at least. I knew I was struggling. I didn't know how much I was struggling. I just knew I was finding things difficult. And spoke to the doctor and was offered medication to help support me, and I rejected it. And the reason I did this, I suppose, was, if I'm honest, partly to do with the stigma around mental health. One of the reasons I'm hoping to challenge that stigma now. But I was offered it, and I suppose it wasn't just the stigma, or it was, but it was dressed up as something else. That I kind of thought I could beat what I was feeling on my own, and that, I'm sure, is a feeling that will be familiar to many of you. And for some of you, in fact I hope many of you, in fact I hope all of you, that will be true. You may well be able to. You can focus on diet, exercise, which is where I started. Try to eat better, consistent meal times, more nutrition, etc. Make sure I was getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, more regularly than I do now, although that's improving. And I thought I could do it by myself, so that's what I set out to do. And I did all right for a few weeks, a few months in, maybe even. Did all right, got by. And then, as problems often do, me and my struggles, my difficulties, my own head turning against me, we were reintroduced, shall we call it. And I went back. And I did a little better the second time. I spoke to the doctor, I explained what had been going on, how I'd been feeling. And again, they were really good. They were very respectful with regard to the fact that they knew they'd offered me medication. It wasn't just a medication they suggested. They said what I needed was maybe some support from medication and some time off work, and I rejected both. Didn't even think about it. Didn't want to do either thing. So that's where I was. Second time I went back, still struggling, unsure of what to do, and was supported, which was good. And this time again I was offered medication, told I should take some time off work. I was clearly struggling, and I agreed to the medication but not to the time off work. Couldn't possibly take time off. The place would fall apart without me. That's what was going on in my head, and not in an arrogant way, just like I wanted to just do everything for everyone. I don't know that even then I thought that I could. I just thought that I was supposed to and that I should try, and I wasn't going to give up, which is what it felt like I would be doing if I were to take time off. So all the time I'm just digging my own hole. And this time I actually got the prescription off the doctor and I took it to get filled out, and I actually paid for it. And I'm stood there in the chemist, waiting on my medication, and got a nice spot. Oh. And for some reason, into my head again came the idea that this wasn't the right thing for me. This, I guess, was maybe a sign of weakness, or I was worried about not being me. And if I'm honest, at the time, I suppose what I was thinking was, if the life I've got to live and the job I've got to do and the world I've got to experience is one that I can only deal with if I'm taking medication, that's not a good thing. That's not a world I want to support or sustain. Now, I know what you're thinking. Obvious thing would be, you need to change that world then. It wasn't obvious to me at the time. Taking the medication suddenly felt like it was admitting defeat, or that I was accepting things the way they are, when part of me knew that they needed to change. So rather than set about changing them, I just again rejected the medication. I actually asked for a refund at the chemist, and I sent the medication back, and I walked out of there double determined to you know, go to spinning classes and run and swim and eat right, and that was what was going to make the difference. And you know, like, all of that was going to account for, you know, the 5-year backlog of undealt with emotional difficulties and a job which I felt at the time was, I was allowing to crush me. I'll speak in more detail about that another time, because the last thing I would want to put across was that the people that I was working with were trying to crush me or anything. They've been nothing but supportive throughout. I made things quite difficult for myself. I was in a position where I was able to do that, but you know, that was not by design. No one had set out to, knowing that would happen or that would be the case, and they've done nothing but speak and support me since. But I'm kind of getting off the point there. What then happened was I ran into yet more emotional difficulties, more stuff I just was struggling to deal with. Bearing in mind, this is now in the context of already having, you know, a good 4 years of stuff that I've not been able to make time for, or not allowed myself to make time for, and yet more was now being piled on top, and I'm rejecting the support that I'm being offered. And that sounds crazy, but I will bet that there are some people out there right now who could be watching this, listening to this, to whom that sounds like a familiar story. Maybe that's the position you're in right now. If you're honest with yourself, you'll know if you're there. You might not be ready to hear it. You might not be ready to let yourself feel it, but a part of you will know if you're there. I did, anyway. And what happened is I was fighting to get through to the Christmas period, Christmas break from work, home with the family. It's all I could focus on was that, and it was like, I can get some rest then. That's what I need. That's what will make the difference. That's what will set things right. I just need, you know, a bit of time. You know, best part of a week to put your head down, spend time with the kids. And I got to the holiday, Christmas period, and basically over a period of about 6 or 7 days, I would say, I just fell apart. There's no other way to say it. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think, I couldn't rationalize. I was so paranoid. I thought the world hated me, and that's the worst thing. This is the thing that they say about paranoia. Paranoia could be really difficult when you know you think the world is against you. And the thing with depression, anxiety, stress disorders, difficulties, is it stops feeling like paranoia, because you don't just think that people don't like you, or that people are against you, or that you're a burden to people, or that people find you difficult. You don't just think that that's what people are thinking. You don't just sit there and think, well, I think these people don't really like me very much, or I think those people are working against me, or have got it in for me, or whatever it might be. Those kind of things that you might associate with paranoia. Because what I was experiencing was all of that. Absolutely was all that. But the big difference for me was I thought everyone was right to feel like that. I thought people were right to not like me. I thought people were right to find me a burden. I thought people were right to want to avoid me. And you know, nobody actually did, or you know, I've no actual evidence to back up the idea that anyone actually did want to avoid me, or you know, actively dislike me in any way. I should add as well that who I felt this about was not like, you know, the, you know, more, you know, transient members of society, the people I'm passing in the street, the colleagues at work that I've maybe not got to know too well yet. It wasn't those people I was with. This was like my friends and family. These were the people I thought were turning against me. These were the people that I thought were finding me just too much to deal with and would much rather avoid me. And the worst part of it all was because I thought they were right. I just thought they were right to feel like that. And if only I'd been able to speak to them about that when it was happening, you know, they would have helped dissolve that notion. They would have helped me see how ridiculous that was. And it was ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But I couldn't see that. I couldn't feel that at the time. I just thought I was useless on all fronts. I thought I was failing as a father, as a husband, as a friend. I thought I was failing at work. I thought I was useless, and everybody knew it, and everybody was right to think it. And I didn't know where to turn or what to do. And my solution to this was go running, you know, eat more vegetables. And I'm not saying that those are not good things to do, and for a lot of people they honestly can be such a difference maker. Eating right, getting plenty of fresh air and exercise, nothing wrong with any of that. Part of my own recovery is absolutely that. But I was off the deep end by this point, and you know, Brussels sprouts and jogging were not the way back for me. It's hard. It's really hard. And yet, because of the stigma surrounding mental health and the view, the kind of cultural view that we have of it as a failure, has stopped me from accessing the support that would have been there. And my own head was stopping me from accessing any sort of family and friend support. Not stopping me, but making it much more difficult. Because, you know, I've got lovely family and I've got amazing friends, and, you know, some of those people just reached out and grabbed me anyway, which I'm so thankful for. But I did make it difficult. I took steps to avoid people. I didn't even know it was happening. I knew it was happening. But it was all just a way to try and protect myself. That's what I thought I was doing. But I made so many wrong decisions for the wrong reasons, and a lot of it because of this stigma. You know, you want to appear strong, you want to be strong and supportive, especially in the role that I am in my house, in my work, as a friend. You know, I didn't want to appear weak because people don't look to you to support them if you're weak. And the problem is, I associated all my mental health difficulties, which they definitely were by this point, as weakness. That's what I saw them as, and I didn't want to be exposed. But Christmas came, I fell apart, and a little voice, that little dying ember inside of me, said, you know what, there's some support out there that you are not accessing. There are people out there who know about this stuff, know much better than you, that all they want to do is help you and support you. And so I made 2 phone calls. This would have been December 31st, New Year's Eve. And I got in contact with two people that day. One was my GP, and I let them know that I needed to come in, and they said, obviously we're going into New Year's Day and bank holiday, but they said, you know, come in the next day when we're in, or go if you know, I could have gone to an out of hours doctor, but I felt like my decision was made to contact the GP and to go and see them because I'd worked with them before, and I knew I was falling apart, but I knew I wasn't at risk in the sense of like needing the support from the doctors or hospitals or whoever right then. It wasn't like that, but I knew I needed to start. I needed to make better decisions with regard to getting the support, and I needed to do it right then. So I made the call, set that meeting up. The other call I made was to my manager at work, and just explained to her that I wasn't going to make it to the first day back staff training session because I was going to see the doctor, and again, nothing but supportive, which is really good. Makes it a lot easier when the people that you work with are so behind you, even when you are telling yourself that they're not, and that everyone's disappointed, and that everyone thinks you're a failure, and that everyone probably hates you. When you actually speak to them and find it's completely the opposite, it is a good feeling. It is you know, you're able to, at least for a while, you're able to take some positivity from that. So I went to the doctor, and this time when they prescribed me the medication, this time I took it. I filled out the prescription and I started that day. Now, as I was saying back at the start, it has been increased. My dosage has been increased a couple of times now, just trying to get the balance right. Everyone talks about getting the balance right. What that really means, I suppose, is that the medication it's not going to turn you into a zombie. It's not going to turn you into a mindless drone. You are still going to feel your emotions. You're still going to get happy. You're still going to get sad. What it should do, when the dosage is right, is it should, I suppose, what we refer to as even you out, which means you're not going to have the extreme euphoric highs, which is a good thing. I'll speak about those another time. They sound funnier than they actually are. That's not to say they're not funny, but they could be a lot worse as well. I'll speak about one in the dentist, which is quite memorable. But you're also, so you're not going to get those, which you shouldn't have anyway, apart from, I suppose, if you're naturally really enjoying something in life, and you'd still get that, just not, I'm not going to get too hyped up, too high. But you're also not going to have the extreme lows and the extreme paranoia, and you're not going to be severely emotional like you might have been whilst you're struggling. And for me, so far, it's been quite an uneven process. I've definitely improved. Anyone that's spent any time with me, January, February time, can tell how much I've improved. And it is a non-linear process, which means you're not going to be, I feel 10% okay on day 1, and by day 25 I'm up to feeling, 86% good, and it's just been it doesn't work like that. It takes time, it takes patience, both of which I've struggled with, patience in particular. But yeah, it takes time to find the right balance between, feeling the positives, feeling your emotions, feeling the negatives for that matter, but being able to deal with them, being able to process them as you used to. I mean, to give an example, when I'm feeling normal, or when my medical dosage is right, something simple goes wrong, really simple, like, I don't know, you miss an important phone call that was maybe only a social one, but your friend called, you were going to meet up with them, and you missed the call, or you didn't get the message through, and so the meeting that you'd hoped to happen didn't happen. Normally no biggie, you're fine with that. Rats, missed it. Maybe next time, maybe next week, we'll rearrange it. When I was at my lowest, around just after the Christmas period, I could not have handled that at all. I would read so much into that. I would think either the person whose call I'd missed, or who hadn't sent the message, or who hadn't replied to my message even, or whatever, that was indicative of a complete social breakdown between me and that person. And because they just found me unbearable, because I found myself unbearable. I couldn't stand spending time with myself, so why would anyone else want to spend time with me? And that's from a missed phone call, a text message that someone takes half an hour extra than you were anticipating to respond. I would just fall apart, and that's not me, that's not people, that's not reasonable. And I knew that, I could recognize that. I just couldn't not feel that, because my emotions, my ability to process what I was feeling was so just messed up, just broken, just in need of the right support and the right healing. Now, with the medication, it's really helping stop things like that happen, but it's not consistent. And the doctors, the reason they've increased, and the reason they're still working with me on it, and they're not saying you're good to go, we'll sign you off for work, sign you clear for work, and in you go, fantastic, is because I'm still having episodes where it's really difficult to process or to interact with people. Like I spoke about in an earlier video, things like going to pick my kids up from school and just falling apart there, and either having to pick them up and either hide in the school, or take them home through a veil of snot and tears, or as happened last time, being bailed out by a friend who was just in the right place at the right time, and thankfully knew exactly what to do, better than I did. And those shouldn't really, if my dosage was right, if we got it spot on, those kind of things, those extreme ends of things, shouldn't be happening. Now, they're not frequent at this point, but they're not predictable either, which can, you know, make things quite challenging. So once we've got that completely under control, which I think the counselling is going to be a big part of that. Once we're there with that, hopefully that will be soon, and we can get on with phase 2, which is getting me back into work, which I'm desperate to get back, but I'm understandably scared, because what if I'm not ready? But I'm only going to get ready by being there, and the people around me know that. They're not going to let me loose on my say-so, but they're going to work with me. Everyone is working with me on getting me to the point where we're all saying, yeah, let's go for this. Keep a good eye on you, talk to you, support you through this, but we're ready to go. And it's frustrating that we're not there yet. It's frustrating how long we've had to wait for the counselling, but that is what it is. But yeah, it's amazing what, through a tunnel here, it's amazing what a bit of stigma can do, because I could have started this process a lot sooner had I not been so scared to admit there was actually a problem, or if we lived in a culture where mental health was better understood, better recognised and better supported. And part of that is just knowing what the support that's already there looks like. God, yes, it needs to improve, but if I'd known the support that was going to be there for me from friends, from family, from colleagues, from occupational health, from the GP, I probably would have engaged a lot sooner. But when it's an unknown, when you don't know what you're going to get, it's scary. And when you're in such a negative headspace already, you anticipate negativity, you anticipate difficulties, you anticipate barriers, and all the barriers are within me, all of them, and there's a lot of people working to help me correct those. We've run quite long. I'm probably going to have to edit this for traffic noise and time anyway, so I'm going to sign off there. But thank you for watching.